The Speaker of the Senate, Honorable Kenneth Lusaka, has stepped into the chambers to oversee the afternoon sittings. I'll now hand you over to the live broadcasting, brought to you in partnership with PBU and KBC.
Let us pray.
My name is Kamchemen.
Almighty God, we beseech you to behold with your abundant favor and blessings as your servants whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under our deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you have committed to our charge. Amen.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, message. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Leader of majority.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the Senate today, 25th May 2021. 1, report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of the County Assembly of Kajiado for the year ended 30th June 2019. 2, report of the Auditor General on the financial statements of the County Executive of Kajiado for the year ended 30th June 2019. Thank you.
Share health. Yeah, Vice Chair or a member of the Health Committee. Yes, Senator Kwamboka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request if we can do it the next week.
Okay, next order. We'll come back to.
Order number 6, notice of motion.
Leader of majority.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that notwithstanding the resolution of the Senate made on the 16th February 2021, approval of the Senate calendar, 24th March 2021 and 30th March 2021, alteration of the Senate calendar, pursuant to Standing Orders 29.4 and 31.3c, the Senate resolves to further alter its calendar, regular sessions, for the 5th session 2021, in respect of Part 3, to hold sittings on Wednesday, 2nd, and Thursday, 3rd June 2021, between 2:30 and 6:30 p.m., and that the Senate proceeds on recess from Friday, 4th June 2021, and resume its regular sittings on Tuesday, 6th July 2021, as set out in Part 4 of the Senate calendar, and as per Standing Order 31, approved on 16th February 2021, and that the Senate calendar regular sessions for the 5th session be altered accordingly. I thank you.
Yeah. Which is the other one? Oh, Senator, yeah. Yeah. Senator Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that the Senate adopts the report of the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations on the impasse on the budgetary estimates for financial year 2020-2021 for Kirinyaga County between the County Executive and the County Assembly, laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 25th of May 2021. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 7, statements.
Let me rearrange the order paper. Let me get... which one? 51? Let me start with under standing order number 51, Senator Sakaja.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to make a statement as the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Labour and Social Welfare, pursuant to Standing Order 51-1A. This is a tribute to a celebrated fallen rugby legend, the late Benjamin Ayimba. Mr. Speaker, I begin by conveying my heartfelt condolences and those of the people of Nairobi to the family, friends, and the entire rugby fraternity for their untimely loss. It is needless to say that the late Benjamin Ayimba, or popularly known as Benja, has not only contributed to the increased popularity of the sport in the last decade, but has demonstrated his love for both the sport and his love for his country. Mr. Speaker, sir, I make this statement cognizant of the fact that the mandate of the Committee of Labour on Labour and Social Welfare, which oversees 3 ministries, including the Ministry of Sports, Culture and Arts, the Speaker endeavours to support and oversight the programs undertaken by this ministry. For the last 4 years, the committee's focus has been to ensure that our sportsmen and women grow and perfect their God-given talents and subsequently earn a livelihood through such efforts. It is therefore against such, or rather this background, that I make this statement in recognition of the contributions of the late Benjamin Ayimba for close to 2 decades. Benja, as he was informally known amongst his friends and within the rugby circles, was an icon extraordinary whose transition on the 21st of May, having lost the battle to cerebral malaria, has left many who knew and admired his sporting talent at a loss. This is a gap to both the family and the rugby fraternity in this country and in this region that will struggle to fill for the longest time. The late Ayimba was indeed a prolific, talented rugby player on the pitch and an astute coach, a husband and father. From the onset, I wish to recognize the late Ayimba's traits that have contributed not only to his illustrious career as a rugby player and coach, but also contributed to placing Kenya at the highest pedestal globally in the sport. His journey was characterized by persistence, willpower, and resilience to succeed against all odds. Those who knew him in his early childhood and teenage days describe him as having had extraordinary traits. Born and raised in a humble family setting, his rise to stardom began way back in the early 80s at the Olympic Primary School in Kibera, Nairobi. Following his stint at Maseno School, his then deputy principal noted that, as I quote, he was an all-round sportsman. As he participated and won in track and field events, soccer, he seemed to have a keen eye on rugby, a journey that saw him leverage on his talent and opportunities, hence his achievements as both a rugby player and coach. One of the articles, Mr. Speaker, that has been done describes him and summarizes his rugby talent as a mixture of brute strength, pace, and dexterity that has never been witnessed in the rugby field, with wonderful evasive skills for the back row and the build of a front row. Mr. Speaker, those who might know rugby will understand what I have explained. Indeed, all of us who have watched him on the pitch and interacted with him can relate to the statement. I remember when I first met him in 2002 after the Floodlights tournament, I told him that I will one day be the captain of the rugby team. And he laughed, but that began a very close friendship after that. Mr. Speaker, apart from the late Ayimba's notable traits that brought honor to this country through the rugby sport, the committee recognizes and lauds his tremendous achievements spanning 2 decades, and I'm honored, Mr. Speaker, that these achievements will forever remain in the record of this House and the record of this country. Just to highlight a few, Mr. Speaker, Benja played for nondescripts in 2002, Cornish Pirates in England between 2003 and 2005, and the Kenya national team from 2006. He captained Impala, now known as Impala Saracens, to 2 championships, the Kenya Cup in 2000 and the Enterprise Cup in 2001. He represented Kenya at the 1998, 2002, and 2006 Commonwealth Games. He was part of the Kenya squad that featured in 2 Rugby World Cup 7 series in 2001 and 2005 Rugby World Cup 7s, tournaments in Argentina and in Hong Kong, respectively. He coached the Sevens team between 2006 and 2011, and subsequently in 2009 secured the first ever IRB World Series Main Cup finals in Adelaide, Australia. In the same year, Mr. Speaker, he led Shujaa to its maiden Rugby World Cup Sevens semi-final in Dubai. The second attempt at Kenya Sevens head coach between 2015 and 2017, he coached the team to its first ever appearance at the 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and strived to promote grassroots rugby, was part of the first ever successful Kitui Sevens in 2018. Mr. Speaker, the foregoing achievements are not a small feat. They are no small feat. The late Benja ventured in the rugby sports both as a player and a coach at a time when Kenya, like several other developing countries, continue to lag behind other established rugby nations like South Africa, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. Needless to say, he was the only Rugby Sevens coach who was relieved of his duties in 2011 and reinstated in 2015. But despite these setbacks, he carried on and led the team to win the 2016 World Sevens title, Mr. Speaker, in Singapore, where the Kenyan team beat Fiji 37. And that was a very, very serious achievement that remains in the history books of this country. In that case, we salute the strength and persistence of this fallen hero. He was a pace setter and a good example to other talented and upcoming rugby sportsmen. He was indeed a classic example of resilience following passion and talent against all odds. We also laud the late Ayimba and his associates on their aspiration to give back to the community. His vision to establish an age-grading rugby academy in Nyanza region aimed at tapping talent at the grassroots is one that must not only be appreciated, but, Mr. Speaker, that we must also support to its successful fruition. Amidst the achievements and many more, Mr. Speaker, some of which I may not be able to highlight at this time, the committee wishes to remember the late Benjamin Ayimba as one who indeed gave back to his country. An outstanding Kenyan whose efforts to grow personal talent, to mentor young people, and he really mentored everyone who he came across who was younger than him, on and off the pitch, and to give back to community, did well to show patriotism, one of the key pillars of good governance as espoused in Article 10.2 of the Constitution of Kenya. That, Mr. Speaker, sir, defines the late Ayimba's legacy and signature. In the writings of Aristotle, he wrote, "Man is at his best when he is doing his best at what he likes doing best." Indeed, the late Ayimba is one of those men whose achievements will remain engraved in the annals of history. He is among the few who applied this philosophy as a centerpiece of his life, with passion, firmness of purpose, and tenacity being his firm foundation, no matter the insurmountable journey. To those of us, Mr. Speaker, who interacted with him, he was a beacon of hope in sport mentorship. We will indeed have a reservoir of memories of his selflessness, an example that will live until the end of time. As a matter of fact, Mr. Speaker, when the history of Kenyan rugby is written, the man, Benjamin Ayimba, will find a chapter and a place. Quite literally, he is gone, but his mark on rugby will endure the test of time. Mr. Speaker, therefore, having played his best, Benja is at peace. I'd like to thank, Mr. Speaker, all Kenyans who followed the appeal that we had made and contributed to his medical costs, Mr. Speaker, which had run out of insurance and everything. I want to particularly thank His Excellency, President Uhuru Kenyatta, who, Mr. Speaker, responded to my call for help and donated, Mr. Speaker, $1 million shillings. I also want to thank the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, who also donated and went and visited the family, and all those other Kenyans who donated 50 shillings, 100 shillings. And even at this time, Mr. Speaker, I just make a final appeal that we still need to help the family. I want to thank Cabinet Secretary Amina, who we've been in touch with. She's really helped together with the Minister for Health and Kenyatta National Hospital to assist with some of those bills. Let us give this hero of Kenyan rugby and Kenyan sport a befitting send-off. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Senator Mwaruma.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa hii nafasi umenipa ili kupitisha salamu za faraja kwa familia na wana Nairobi kwa ujumla kwa kumpoteza mchezaji mashuhuri wa raga kwa jina Benjamin Ayimba. Kusemolo ukweli, Ayimba alifanya bidii akiwa mwanamchezo mashuhuri wa raga na alichangia pakubwa kuweka jina ya Kenya katika ile map ya dunia. Kusemolo kweli, Bwana Ayimba alikuwa ni mkufunzi mzuri ambaye alikuwa na nidhamu na nguvu kama mchezaji ambaye nguvu zake ni za kuigwa. Nikiwa mwenyewe Mheshimiwa Spika ni mkufunzi wa mchezo wa kandanda, nafikiri ile kazi tunafanya kama wakufunzi wa michezo mbalimbali, tunafanya kazi kubwa sana kuhakikisha kwamba wanamichezo wanapata ujuzi wa kucheza. Lakini kando na ujuzi, Mheshimiwa Spika, peke yake, kuna yale mengine yanayofunzwa pale uwanjani. Kwa mfano, nidhamu ya hali ya juu. Ayimba ukimwona katika uwanja alikuwa na nidhamu ya hali ya juu na aliweza kupitisha hiyo nidhamu kwa wachezaji wengine. Wakati alifanya bidii kuinua wengine katika kiwango kile chake, na wale wachezaji walipata kipato kizuri kupitia kwa huu mchezo wa raga. Kwa hivyo napenda kuungana na Wakenya wengine na wanamchezo wengine nikiwa kama mwenyekiti mdogo wa kamati ya bunge ya michezo na leba, ya kwamba tusaidiane na tushikane mkono na familia ya Benjamin Ayimba ili kuhakikisha kwamba huu mchezo wa raga umefika viwango vingine. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, si mchezo wa raga peke yake, lakini michezo mingine, kwa sababu tukiangalia Kenya inapata kipato cha juu kupitia kwa michezo kama raga na mbio ambazo tunaangalia wenzetu wanaotoka bonde la Ufa wameleta kipato cha hali ya juu sana. Na nashukuru pia wale viongozi ambao tumesikia kwa mwenyekiti wa leba, kamati ya leba, kwamba walichangia pakubwa kulipia zile bills za Bwana Ayimba alipokuwa hospitalini. Kwa hivyo nafikiri si wengine sote ni tushikane mkono ili tusaidie familia na kuhakikisha kwamba Benjamin Ayimba ameenda vizuri, na tunaomba kwamba Mungu ailaze roho yake mahali pema pasawa. Asante Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Kajwang.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I join Senator Sakaja, the entire nation that is mourning a great man, Benjamin Ayimba, who brought great glory to this country. Mr. Speaker, the definition of heroes of a nation tells you something about the soul of that nation. Unfortunately, Kenya is a country where our heroes tend to be politicians. Our heroes tend to be the Robin Hoods who acquire, then come and distribute the proceeds to the people they acquired from in the first place. How I wish that we had a value system where people like Benjamin Ayimba, who has brought global glory to this republic, would be elevated to the highest levels. Mr. Speaker, you'll agree with me that when a politician and Benjamin Ayimba are on a queue, the politician will be told to jump the queue, and not the Benjamin Ayimba, and not the Eliud Kipchoges of this world. We need to recalibrate the way we define and look at our heroes. At this point, there is not much we can do. We cannot bring Benjamin Ayimba back to life, but the glory, the adrenaline that he inspired in our bodies, the smiles that he put on our faces, the excitement he caused us every time we saw the Kenyan rugby team, a player reaching for the try line, every time we saw a conversion, every time we saw a drop kick that was successfully executed, every time we saw the strength of the pack and the scrum of the Kenyan team. Mr. Speaker, those will live with us forever. I wish that the family can be taken care of, because as always is the case, we come for the funeral and make lofty speeches, even though many a times we only talk about the deceased 10% of the time and BBI 90% of the time at the funerals. I hope this is going to be different, that we are going to make promises and we are going to make commitments that we are going to live up to. Mr. Speaker, Benjamin Ayimba, what he did to the game of rugby, which was really a minority sport. Back then, it was a sport that was confined to a few schools. In Nairobi, it was Nairobi School and Lenana School. In Western, it was Maseno School and maybe St. Mary's Yala. And the generation of Benjamin Ayimba democratized the rugby movement to an extent that today the traditional schools that dominated rugby, Lenana and Nairobi School, are nowhere. Nowadays, it is the Kakamega boys, the Musingu, and rugby has moved to the western part of the country, and more people are now getting an opportunity to play rugby and also go international and play rugby in England and other countries the way Benjamin Ayimba did. We might not be able to pay him, we might not be able to idolize him appropriately as a hero in his days of living, but the memory he has left behind and the glory he has brought to Kenya, Mr. Speaker, is immense. And let us not wait also for some of our greats in cricket, because if there's another niche sport where Kenya is renowned internationally, if you travel and you meet a Pakistani or a Bangladeshi or an Indian and you start discussing cricket, they know Kenyans, they know Kenyan cricket players, players who even you as a Kenyan leader, perhaps you don't know. But because they have elevated the sport and they've brought up the name of the country to such lofty levels, and yet we still treat them just as watu wa kawaida. May Benjamin Ayimba's soul rest in peace. May his family find comfort. May the leadership make promises that they are willing to keep. May we have him a dignified burial, but what he has done to the game that is called rugby, which is basically a gentleman's game, is great, and his memory will live and will endure forever.
Senator Cheriot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this chance. I join the rest of my colleagues on my own behalf and that of the people of Kericho to mourn this hero alongside everyone else of goodwill who is wishing his family God's grace during this extremely difficult time, as I mourn a gentleman who gave his life for this country and served it in the place and field of his calling to the best of his abilities, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Benjamin Ayimba contributed to the growth of rugby as a sport in this country, made many who ordinarily maybe may not have loved the sport of rugby, as this is not one of our traditional sports as a country, fell in love with it because of how he handled and motivated the young squad that he was lucky to have led, won the titles around the country, and that was a great moment of pride for us as a people, Mr. Speaker. Listening to his interviews every time they came back from the IRB series, be it on occasions that they won, as were listed by Senator Sakaja, and even on occasions where they didn't do so well, Mr. Speaker, he'd always have a good explanation as to what went wrong and always strived to make it better in their next appearance. Such are the gentlemen, Mr. Speaker, who make this country proud. As a nation, and I don't want to get into a moment of adage as a leader and start mourning and saying how we haven't done so much for our sports people, Mr. Speaker. I have taken the personal initiative knowing that this is something, sports in general, is an area that I'm extremely passionate about. And I have a bill, Mr. Speaker, that is in the formation stages, perhaps going through the publication scrutiny stage before finally being read for the first time before this House, that will look into the issues such as the one a few of my colleagues have spoken about, that we have men and women like Benjamin Ayimba who go out of this country, Mr. Speaker. They bring glory whose value you cannot even measure, Mr. Speaker. Because what is a value, either in kind or monetary consideration, of the young men and women who go around the world and fly our flag, that everybody gets to know about Kenya and reads about our history thanks to their exploits on the field, Mr. Speaker. We can never be able to compensate such people, but at least there's something that we can do to celebrate them, to honor, respect them, make sure that their names prominently feature, and that generations in future will know that there were such men and women who dedicated their lives into making this country a better place, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, the life of Benjamin Ayimba is one that we'll remember for a long time as a people. I know at this time his family is heartbroken. They've gone through a very rough patch in the last few months. It's not very simple for a family to come out and plead and say, call out for help, as they've had to because of his battle with illness. It goes on to speak to the challenges that we continue to experience as a people, Mr. Speaker, on the cost of medication in this country. And the fact that not even those that we thought are in a better place, like this gentleman, are able to afford it, Mr. Speaker, because it's simply out of the roof. And this is a situation and a scenario that is in so many of our families. Therefore, I join Senator Sakaja, who pleaded that if there are Kenyans of goodwill who still want to support this family, that we should make our contributions so that we can celebrate him. You know, others may be worried, Mr. Speaker, about his young family and the contribution. You know, much as I know that it's not easy to say this, Mr. Speaker, I know that in life, it all evens out at some point. For the good contribution that their father made to this country, it may not appear immediate, but for his good deeds, they cannot go without reaping his fruits. In one way or the other, it may not be direct as it is right now, but I believe, Mr. Speaker, that one way or the other, in one way or the other, members of his family, especially the wife and the children, will reap the fruits of their father's endeavors and exploits for this republic. It calls upon us, because we are policy makers as members of parliament. And like I have said, Mr. Speaker, I have a bill that is before this House on the Sports Sports Act Amendment Bill of 2021, that when we get to that particular opportunity, many of these things that we say whenever we are faced with such scenarios, because this is not the first time that you're speaking as a house on the challenges that many of our athletes face, let us bring our thoughts together into ensuring that we unlock the potential that is in this industry. A potential where people can make a good living, first of all, during your playing days, and even later on, as a speaker, for example, when the good days, when we had just established the sports fund, before there was all the interference that came with it, and we diverted a lot of those funds into health, which is, yeah, I agree, an important segment of society that we need to take care of, but we shouldn't have diverted all the funds to the deprivation of sportsmen and women. Mr. Speaker, sports is a huge industry. Many of the countries that have been able to manage their sports well, when you talk about England, South Africa, and so many other places, they have employed millions of young people and people who are enthusiastic because of simply how they manage those industries well. I hope that as Parliament, in the few days that we still have, that in our lifetime, we shall be able to give a lifeline to this industry that continues to suffer. Take, for example, Mr. Speaker, even in this season of the pandemic, we know for a fact that many young men and women earn from sports. Yet, even after the resumption of near normal operation activities in various segments of our society, we are still awaiting for the Ministry of Sports to give their approval, the nod of approval on a resumption to all sporting activities. Yet, in the rest of the world, we saw the English Premier League coming to a conclusion, Mr. Speaker, where at least a good number of fans were able to be allowed into the stadium. We may not have the kind of resources that they have to be able to vaccinate all our people and send people back to stadium, but at least even for the players, so that we are able to give them, because when they play, they earn, and when they play, they generate revenue, which in return pays and meets their daily needs as a people, Mr. Speaker. We needed to have done this the same way we did it for all these other industries, and that is the kind of approach that we are saying we need a dimension shift. We need a conversation in this country that is bottom-up first, Mr. Speaker, that when you sit down and make a consideration trying to unlock, say, travel routes, because you have the big boys traveling from Nairobi to London, think also about the young people who need to play football at Kisumu Stadium, who need to play football here in Nairobi. Give a proposal as a ministry, and I challenge ministry officials, because I know there are some who are listening to this conversation, Mr. Speaker, that let them give us a return to sports route, so that clubs are able to follow this particular route in all the sports that you are involved in, and the many young people who draw their livelihood from sports are able to get back to work. As a people, we should continue to push this, Mr. Speaker, in memory of the good work that was done by legends and great people like Benjamin Ayimba. May his soul rest in eternal peace, and we continue to live on with the kind of attitude and demeanor that he had towards life, in doing his best despite the difficult circumstances that he found himself in. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Rose Nyamunga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to join my colleagues in eulogizing the late Benjamin Ayimba. I must say that I knew Benjamin many years back. I think it must be over 30 years ago. I knew him as a young person. And I did not know much about the rugby as a game. But from Benjamin, from the time I think he was in primary, upper primary to the secondary school, that is when he started being very active and developing interest in rugby. So I came to know about the game and enjoy and follow it through up to the point that Benjamin has ended it when he was the coach, first of all as a team member, and lastly as a coach. I must say that, Mr. Speaker, Benjamin was brought up by a single mother. And the mother was a good friend of mine. She is still a friend of mine to date. That's how I came to know the children. She is a very strong woman. And from her strength and being a single mother, she managed to raise her family in a God-fearing way, and in a way that the children would be in future be in a position to take care of themselves. And I must say that this is a big blow to the family, because Benjamin, in his heart, he knew that the mother struggled with them as a single mother, and after that, when they were in a position now to be able to take care of the mother, Benjamin did a lot of work and did a lot of activities, even in the village. They used to live in Nairobi. Eventually, the mother had to relocate home, putting up a very beautiful home for the mother and making sure that she had enough activities to keep her busy as now an elderly person in the village. Mr. Speaker, I must say that apart from rugby, when Benjamin retired from rugby, or when he finished his, the term that he served as a coach, he did not stop there. He started something that I know that I got to know from young people and from my own son. He started a game, I think it's a sports game, that it is still in the formative stages, and it was going to be a big thing. I want to believe that the people who are working together with him will continue in that legacy to make sure that what Benjamin started, in fact, one day he told me, I've been struggling with this sport game for a very long time. It has been a long 7 years' work. So Benjamin was a very enterprising young person, very strong, very energetic, and I want to ask all of us that, unfortunately, he has lost his life at a very tender age. When somebody's in their 40s, really that is the prime of anybody's life. I want to ask the Kenya government and generally the Ministry of Sports that from time to time when we lose our heroes like Benjamin, we stand up here and put very great words on them and say everything that we knew and all the achievements, but then it ends there. I would like to urge all of us and to urge us as a nation that we must come out very, very clear on how we take care of our heroes, people who have made history, who have made Kenya shine at some level. So I want to condole with the family and ask that much as we are sending him to rest in the last resting place, Benjamin incurred a lot of debt. It has already been mentioned by several colleagues. He incurred a lot of hospital debt, which is still there. Benjamin has left a young family. Benjamin has left a mother who was looking up to him for more and more support as a mother who struggled to bring them up. And I must say there were 4 of them, and each and every one of them is in a position to take care of them. And it is because of Benjamin. He was a very focused young person, and he knew the burden the mother, and he helped the mother to carry that burden. So as we eulogize him and say good words about him, let us remember the family during this time in terms of the hospital bill, the young family that is left behind, and more so the burial that we give Benjamin, a befitting send-off to the final resting place. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I really condole with the family and feel very sorry, much as there's not much we can do. But we want to commit the family to God, and we know that God will grant them fortitude at this time. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Shiong.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to contribute to this eulogizing message. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by saying that Benjamin Ayimba, as a sportsman, we have lost a great icon whom we shall never get. But, Mr. Speaker, on the other side, it's not really a great loss because Benjamin himself nurtured many to the level of achieving Kenya rugby game to a national and international levels. We shall remember Benjamin not just because he was a player, but also a coach. Kenya has lost, we have lost, and the international players also have lost. May the Lord rest his peace in eternal peace till we meet again.
His spirit.
His spirit, sorry. May the Lord rest his spirit in eternal peace till we meet again. Bye-bye, Benjamin. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. On my behalf, my family, and the great people of County of Nandi, I want to take this opportunity to pass our deepest condolences for the family of fallen hero, the rugby maestro, Benjamin Ayimba, for the unfortunate demise. I know when he was sick, I must congratulate and thank the people who stood with him. And even my proposal, even going to the funeral arrangements, I hope Senator Sakaja will put up a way on how we can assist the family, the young family, and also offset the funeral expenses and other medical that have been incurred. Mr. Speaker, I think Benjamin Ayimba is one who revolutionized rugby, because most of us, when we were in high school, it is through him that rugby became famous. Many young people, you are very cool because you are playing rugby. You are the yo-yo, that is a string slang because you are playing rugby. And I think, Mr. Speaker, it's among the people who are pioneers in the rugby arena that many people really many people in high school, many of my colleagues were very keen in playing rugby because how it was being packaged by Coach Ayimba and other individuals within the rugby arena. So, Mr. Speaker, Nandi County is is a source of champions, and almost 3/4 of young people, as someone has alluded, are in the sports arena, mostly through the athletes. They are the wall beaters, they are the track runners, including Eliud Kipchoge, Conseslus Kipruto, among others, who have made their mark. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Sports, also the government, has not been very gracious enough to ensure that our athletes, our sportsmen and women, enjoy the fruits of their labor. Because, and I said before on the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker, why would you pay people to be brand Kenya ambassadors when you have already people like Eliud Kipchoge, Benjamin Ayimba and likes, when they wear just a jersey where Kenyan flag is enough branding that we need to see how, instead of giving so much money to brand Kenya, we can use our sportsmen and women to fly the flag when they wear those T-shirts, when they are competing on fields and the track. That opportunity can be used by the Ministry of Tourism and ensure those projects, in case of giving private advertising firms that are abroad, we should just give those money to sportsmen and women so that when they are running on a track, they can at least promote the diversity, the tourism, the unique culture we have as Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. Finally, Mr. Speaker, is on the issue of, we have seen there is something that is killing our sports industry slowly, and it is the issue of doping. And I hope my former chair in the Labor and Social Welfare, Senator Sakaja, will follow up on this issue that is eating it's becoming cancerous among the sports fraternity, especially on the issue of doping. But my worry, Mr. Speaker, is that there is a rule within the sports Kenya, and I hope it is illegal, and where we can put this to an end is somebody has served when they are being banned for 5 years or 3 years for using the substance, or 4 years. The sports Kenya or athletics Kenya do not allow that athletes to come back and compete on behalf of the country. But I thought that is subjecting that athlete to double jeopardy. So I hope the Committee of Labor and Social Welfare, led by Senator Sakaja, will look into that so that we don't subject our athletes or sportsmen and women into double jeopardy. If somebody has served the ban that have been given by IIF and also Athletics Kenya, they should be allowed again to compete so long as they have been cleared by the necessary agencies like ADAC, Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya, and many other agencies. But on this, of course, I hope the ministry or the national government will do something about to name, and I hope Senator Sakaja, since he is the city senator, he will be able to at least have one street or a place or a sports facility within Nairobi or even within Kenya. And I know he's a good friend of the president. He can whisper to the president that we can have a sports facility, even a training, an academy of rugby that can be named after Benjamin Ayimba, so that his legacy can be outlived and many people can be inspired for the works that he did within the sports fraternity. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What is your point of information?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to inform, and I thank Senator Cherargei, but just to inform him that part of the plans that we're pushing for, there's a new rugby complex that is being done, Mr. Speaker, sports complex along Ngong Road, that one of the facilities therein, even if not the entire, but one of the facilities must be named after Benjamin Ayimba, Mr. Speaker. And also, Mr. Speaker, it is a coincidence that on the same day we lost Benjamin, it was the 1-year anniversary of Alan Makaka, who was the fastest rugby player. Situma also in 2016 died in the same week. So we'll do something to really bring their memory. So thank you, Senator Cherargei, for that suggestion.
Senator Musurube.
Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to join you in condoling with the family of Benjamin Ayimba. It is indeed a very painful state that he has died at a very tender age. His family is just very young. And I want to say that the contributions he has made nationally and internationally should not just go like that, Honorable Speaker. And the death of Ayimba is just a reminder that we need to really look for mechanisms of ensuring that our sports persons do not just die in abject poverty. Honorable Speaker, our sports persons are people bring a lot of glory into this country. And since they also add to the economy and revenue of this country, there's need to just establish a mechanism of ensuring that their royalties that are even paid to them, even when their bodies are ailing, even when their bodies become weak, because most of the energetic time, youthful time, they have spent bringing glory to our country. And these royalties should spill over also to their families, Honorable Speaker. I know of quite a number of sports persons who have died in abject poverty. There is Wangila, who was a very good boxer. He just died like that. There is also Kadenge, who also died, some time ago. And there's also someone like Conjestina, who has not died, but she's just languishing in abject poverty. Our sports persons should not actually go through this painful moment because they bring a lot of honor and glory to our country, and they also fly the flag of Kenya high. So there's need to really even have capacity training for sports persons when they're active and in their youthful years. They should be capacity training so that they can also be trained on how to utilize their monies so that they begin preparing for retirement just immediately they begin earning, Honorable Speaker. Because they are not supposed to die in a sorrow state. In the aging moment also, they're not also supposed to be, a pity, state. So, Honorable Speaker, we should see how to also nurture the talents of sports people and also ensure that we get the best we can from them. But even as they give us, their best, let us see how to have them age gracefully, and even when they exit the world, the world of the living, let us also ensure that their families are happy about their achievements, Honorable Speaker. I condole with this family and also on behalf of PWDs, and as a coordinator of PWD Sports, I pass my deepest condolences. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity.
Finally, Senator Haji Mohammed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I offer my heartfelt condolences to the family and friends of the late Benjamin Ayimba. I pray for peace and comfort for the family and the loved ones at this difficult time, and I offer my condolences, and on behalf of the people of Garissa, I also offer our condolences to them all. His gentle soul will always be in our hearts. Benjamin Ayimba will definitely be remembered, and he goes down in history as the man who won the 2016 Singapore Sevens after thrashing Fiji 37 to bring the coveted cup home. This happened only a year after being reinstated as the coach, just a year before the tournament. It is no mean feat, and he was truly a Kenyan hero. Sports has a major symbolic value and shapes national self-perception. Sports, and I would like to assume all kinds of sports, can unite countries. Kenya's sportsmen and women, much like other national athletes, have become the nation's or national flag bearers. They have made this country visible on the global stage and inspired a generation of athletes and sportsmen and women. The good news is that I would like to assume that Kenyan policy towards sports have been improving in the recent years, but I still think that there's a lot of room to improve on. I think as the Senate, all leaders in this country, we need to push the government more towards improving the policies towards sports so that we can appreciate our sportsmen and women more and even reward them better. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, maybe before we go back to the other statements, let me ask the chair